Hello, fellow fantasy football enthusiasts. I want to show how the idiot behind the Playoff Computer app uses it for his own leagues as both a commissioner and team manager. Forgive me, this won't be as polished as some of my other videos, and if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll get that joke. And that starts with seeing the side of my mug while I stare at the screen. For this demo, I'll use a 12-team 2-division league just to show some additional things shown for division leagues. For simplicity, we'll do a non-median league, 14-week season. The premium level has all the cool stuff that'll be shown, and again, for 1 year, that is about the price of one beer. I'm using the iOS version here. The Android version will have some minor differences, but should be easy to follow along. For most functions, they are nearly identical. I'll try to remember to point out any important differences if we come across them. Certainly, there's nothing stopping somebody from running calculations at any time, but there's probably not too much useful intel during the first few weeks of a fantasy football season. So I'll start looking at things around week 4. Since this is still fairly early in the season, we could just do quick calculations for each team's odds, but I'll do, I guess, call it normal calculations, which is basically leave both deep and quick options off. We'll make sure everything is correct, number of wildcard spots, and division winners automatically in, and then we're good to go. While it's doing its thing, just to let you know, it's not just fantasy football that the app can do. New for this year, you can import many pro leagues, including the NFL, and do your own analysis of the league or your favorite team, what ifs, and so on. Pardon me for a second. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, we got the results again after just 3 games. Not any life-altering info. The thing that will be most important for my own team is going to be the targets. In this case, the target to make the playoffs and the target to win the division. Let's just move into the future a little bit and let's look at, say, week 8. So when my leagues get to about this point for providing the league the playoff race updates, as a commissioner, I'll start paying a little more attention to the very good and very bad teams to see if anyone is getting close to a playoff spot or close to being eliminated to decide whether to switch to the deep calculations. Side note, so the elimination part can be important for a commissioner since none of the hosting platforms do this with any kind of accuracy. Knowing whether a team is truly eliminated can be crucial for policing those collusion type trades. Anyway, in the iOS version, choosing deep is the only way to see any of the paths to clinch, while in Android they may appear without selecting the deep option, but at this stage it's more of a signal to look closer at everything. Let's see. In this example, no team is nearly getting all that close, and we could just eyeball it, and no team would be about to clinch a spot. And the worst team is still showing as having a chance. So there's not any pressing need to run deep calculations here. Of course, there is nothing stopping us from doing so, which would get us a little more accuracy in everything from the odds to the targets to the minimum in and guaranteed in numbers. Let's just go one more week to week 9 and see where we stand. So again, we'll be looking to see if there's any great need to select deep while getting intel for sharing the playoff race. And like I said, there's nothing stopping us from selecting the deep option. We can see here that Team Alphas has a check mark under the minimum in column. That means that there is at least one possibility that they could get into the playoffs without winning another game. There's also a couple teams without any numbers in the guaranteed in column, meaning those teams do not control their own destiny. Eyeballing the overall picture, looking at the records, the targets, it looks to me that from this point onward, the deep calculations will be the way to go. So we'll move on to week 10. And we'll select deep. This will take a couple minutes, so I will be back in a minute or two. So here we are at week 10, and it's right around this point that things are going to get a little tricky. We still have a significant number of games remaining, and the app may have had to incorporate some randomization methods into the calculations. Here's the note saying that it did exactly that. So I'm going to put some extra scrutiny on the results. We're going to want to do some verifying of any clinched or eliminated determinations and any path-to-clinch listings. Here, first, no team is showing as clinched, possibly clinched, or eliminated, or possibly eliminated. So in this case, we don't have to worry about verifying something that doesn't exist. But let's open up the Paths-to-Clinch preview. And we can see that Alphas has at least one listed. This looks fairly plausible. But for grins, I'm going to use the focus option to zero in on Team Alphas. But before I do that, let's just look at what we have otherwise. And this is where I, as a manager, am going to look at my own team's chances, targets, look at my remaining schedule, do some what ifs, get a sense of where I stand and whether I'm comfortable, or do I need to miracle up some wins, maybe affecting my trading and waiver wire moves. We'll get back to that. So let's do this focus thing with the Alphas. We're going to open up the remaining games, and we're going to choose the Alphas as the team to focus on. The full instructions for all this are on the website. What I'm basically going to do here is have the app assume that the Alphas are going to lose out after the current week, so the app can really dig into whether their Paths-to-Clinch listings are valid. So we're going to just ignore this week's games, create a bad outcome for Alphas. 6 games. So it just automatically just plugs in that the Alphas lose their remaining games other than this current week. We'll run the calculations again. Got deep still on. So again, this will be a couple minutes, so I will see you in a few. And here we are. And now we should have what should be reliable paths to clinch for alphas to spread the word on. And then from this point on, as I said, we'll just do deep calculations. Now, when doing so, we'll look at one thing once the results spit out. I'll go to week 11. Again, be back in a minute. So, any second now. Here we are. So this is week 11, and we're going to be looking at, for one thing we're looking for is this note. Like I mentioned, if the app had to use some randomization methods, we should apply that extra scrutiny to the results. Now, every league and every scenario is going to be unique. In this case, and as the head idiot here, I know these results are pretty solid. Of course, this is the fun part of the season, especially for commissioners in doling out all the juicy playoff race details. We got plenty of paths to clinch. And this is just a preview. We can see a couple teams are eliminated from their division. This red in the minimum in column means that team has to win out to have any chance at the playoffs. This is one of the things the iOS and Android versions be a little bit different. Let's see. The teams without a guaranteed in, again, no longer control their own destiny. All sorts of geeky info. And back to looking at maybe my own team. Say I'm the Indigos. I'll go to the remaining game section. Choose the Indigos. And I'll look at my matchups, pull up the platform, just kind of gets a general idea, and maybe just figure out which ones I have a halfway decent chance to win. So let's just say it looks like I'm going to get slaughtered this week, but maybe I got halfway decent odds of winning these 3 games, so I'll plug in that I win those, and then just see where I'm at. For this, I'll turn off the deep calculations just to speed things up a little bit. So again, I'm saying I'm the Indigos. Right now it says I have about a 73% chance outright to make the playoffs without needing the points tiebreaker, and 18% chance to fall into a points tiebreaker that can't be determined yet. So that's somewhere around an 80% chance of making the playoffs. We're saying that I'm maybe going to lose this game this week, but hope to win the next 3. We'll just see where the odds would be with that. So as a team manager, this is one of the fun things of the app, is to just, you can just go in there and do all sorts of what ifs. See if you do need to make some big moves to improve your chances. So here it says if I win those 3 games, that I will be in the playoffs. And I probably could have figured that out with the guaranteed in number. But it just shows you some of the capabilities of what you can do with the what ifs. Let's see. The remainder of the weeks will be similar. If you like the geeky stuff and you're a commissioner, this type of info gets generally good reviews from the rest of the league. And like I mentioned, if you're just concerned with your particular team, you might be able to use the info and features to save yourself from making a life-altering trade when you don't need to. So I guess that's it. Enjoy your day. See the website for all the deets.